Welcome everyone to Mugwump Media. Now, Kevin and I hope that you're having a great weekend. And Kevin, it's amazing. Finally, the Senate Democrats voted to shut down, at least their end of it, the longest shutdown in U.S. history.
Shutting down a shutdown. That's interesting.
I know. The whole thing is interesting. Plus the whole thing, the way that the No Kings rally, of course, with all the aged people wearing the Burger King crowns. And then, of course, you had the shutdown. And then, of course, you have these elections that are very strange. You know, it just makes me think that they are trying to push a narrative and cause as much trouble for conservatives as possible.
One of the biggest carnivals we've seen in a while.
Oh, I know.
The greatest show on earth.
I know. They waited, of course, until until the election was over before they decided to go ahead and sign the continuing resolution. And they really didn't get much, Kevin. They really didn't. So that's good.
I hope they got zero.
Yeah, well, you know. Now, if you guys watched our show that came out last Saturday, you probably remember me going over the stats on the illegal immigrants that are getting SNAP benefits and welfare benefits, and just kind of the breakdown of legal and illegal immigrants and of course, native-born citizens. And, you know, native-born citizens are getting a much lower percentage than what the illegals are of these SNAP benefits and housing and just welfare of all sorts. And obviously, this has been on purpose over the last 4 years. Those doors were swung open wide, everybody was coming in, and now, you know, they're basically giving them all this stuff to keep them here. And
benefits for breaking the law.
Right. Well, and
rewards.
And again,
for
if you guys didn't check
lawless.
it out, it was eye-opening. You should check out last week's video. I won't go into it right now, but and you probably remember me saying that I'm not sure what to think about the election results. And Kevin and I have talked a lot about this. I do think that they voted. I mean, they always cheat, and they cheated in New York. I have no doubt. There was someone that actually said that the mayor's brother or somebody was actually out doing field works. Can you say nepotism, Kevin? But just a lot of stuff that was going on. So I'm sure that
shocking
outside money from George Soros and all that stuff coming in to support Mamdani. But sadly, I think that they actually did vote for him. I really do. I think that the last good mayor that they had was Rudy Giuliani, really. I mean, Bloomberg was very squishy. He was the first guy. Remember, he was supposedly a Republican, but he was the one that wanted to get rid of the straws. Remember?
Oh, yeah. I
remember when that happened. And then it just went downhill from there. So, and sadly, I think that they're just going to have to ride this out. And it's already causing issues. The stuff that he's saying he's going to do, controlling the money, he has no control of that money. So this should be very interesting to watch as it goes forward.
Everything's free.
I know, everything free. But I got to tell you, there were some suspicious anomalies that had been reported in Virginia, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. And I looked around. I told you last week, I was just going to kind of sit and let the dust settle and see what all came of it. Well, I found a few things here and there, but I tell you, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a man named Tim Pool. Now, he's a young man. He's probably, I'd say, around Charlie Kirk's age, probably in his early to mid-30s. And something you need to know about, it's Timcast IRL is his podcast address. And I like him. I actually do. I listen to his podcasts sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. And the thing about him is he's kind of like Joe Rogan. There are a whole crew of these podcasters that are all relatively young, that a lot of them were Bernie guys, Bernie bros, Kevin. A lot of them voted for Bernie. I think that Tim Pool was actually, I think he was part of Occupy Wall Street at one point.
Oh, my.
Now, here's the thing. I have more patience for somebody like him. He didn't know. That generation, all they've seen is a bunch of absolute garbage coming from, honestly, both sides. Just stuff that doesn't make any sense. They heard Bernie talking about getting rid of the oligarchy and, shutting down all these crazy corporate profits. Well, you know what? There is a lot of stuff that's going on that is not fair and is not right.
That's right.
With big businesses and big pharma and that type of thing. I could understand why somebody like Tim Pool would feel that way. And, say what you will about Bernie, but I don't agree with anything he has to say. I mean, obviously, socialism doesn't work. He must not know a lot about history, because if you look back in history, you can see that every time it's been tried, lots of people die, people starve, and it never works. But here's the thing. These young people don't necessarily know that history, and they hear somebody like Bernie talking, and what they hear is a true believer. I don't agree with Bernie, but he believes what he's pushing. Mm-hmm. He really does.
He's got a different world experience than we do, I think.
Boy, I think that's the truth, too. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Tim Pool, over the last few years, really since the last election, he has arisen as really a good podcaster, and he generally takes a libertarian view anyway, which, you know what, that's not bad. That encompasses a lot of the same things that we believe. I wouldn't say that he's socially very conservative at all, but he knows a lot of the stuff that we do.
He cares, and he's looking for solutions.
He does. I have a lot more patience for somebody like him.
A truth seeker.
A truth seeker, you bet. Now, he actually put together a great piece, a video piece, on these election night anomalies in a podcast entitled Democrats Cheated. Yeah, kind of simple. If you go on his YouTube page, you'll find it, and you can listen to the whole thing. But in this piece, he meticulously broke down some of the stuff that was being reported, and it was being reported. There were graphs that were being put up from different entities following some of the weird stuff happening. There were posts from different people, some citizen journalists who were watching everything and commenting on it. So I thought it was really good. I listened to it a couple of days after the election, and I thought, you know what, this is something that you all would enjoy. And Kevin's going to he's going to drop in a couple of those graphs. And, shout out to Tim Pool. He did a great job on this. Do I think that the election was absolutely stolen and there's all kinds of proof? Nobody can say that for sure. They make sure that they cover their tracks pretty good. But I'm telling you, from what I see and hear, I told Kevin, I got PTSD listening to the reports of what happened. You saw some of the same stuff that was very, very evident in the 2020 election. Yeah. So you decide for yourself.
Not your typical graphs and charts.
Oh, no.
Pretty creative, actually. Some of it looks like some modern art. It's got,
Yeah.
You know what?
Spirograph.
Exactly. You remember the spirographs, all those, little swirls and twirls. And
crazy.
One of the graphs even looks like a fish.
Oh, I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, let's just say I can't imagine it's really coincidental. But again, you decide. But I broke down some of the stuff even a little bit further than he did. He had a lot of conversation that went on in the middle of it, and I took the good stuff for you guys. And there was a lot of good stuff. He did good. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and just sort of start into it. Here's what he said, and a lot of this is his comments. Democrats had a tremendous victory this week in numerous elections. Philadelphia, New Jersey, Virginia, New York, and some are asking the question, is there something fishy with New Jersey's latest election results? He actually got a lot of this information from a townhall.com article, which is a very reputable news place. Many have pointed out, he says, that these election results don't make sense. Now, I actually got this from somebody else, one of our Mugwumps at large. If you listen to last week's, Philadelphia, they had those 3 Supreme Court justices that ended up being retained, and very liberal. And the reason that Philadelphia went to Joe Biden in 2020, I mean, there were a lot of people in Philadelphia trying to make a difference and switch it around, but ultimately their Supreme Court defeated everything. So, of course, the liberals wanted to keep these guys in. Now, that night, one of the Mugwumps at large sent me a text from Scott Pressler. He's a Pennsylvania guy, and he sounded the alarm, noting that voters in Chester County were being turned away because they ran out of provisional ballots.
Familiar song.
Oh, I know. I asked Kevin that night, I said, so how much you want to bet that may have been a conservative county?
We don't know, but you got to...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move a little bit further here, too. Let's see. Tim points out, this was a statement he made. When you consider that these people were willing to murder Charlie Kirk, try to kill Donald Trump, arrest Trump's lawyers, honestly, why wouldn't they rig elections? I don't know.
Questionable character.
Yeah.
Yep.
This was what he said. And what about Virginia? Well, the governor's and attorney general's race both had mysterious evening flips. Now, this is the Kalshi prediction market. And what this is like a horse race. Basically, these are people betting on who's going to win. So they keep very good records. They have a graph set up, and I think this is one of them that Kevin's going to drop in. But this is the Kalshi prediction market for who will win the attorney general race in Virginia. Now, you guys remember it was between Jason Miyares, who was the Republican, and that horrible Jay Jones, the Democrat. Now, if you will remember, Jay Jones was the one a few months ago that it was reported, it was broken in the news that a year or two ago, someone that he was running against on the opposite side of the aisle, he literally sent a text to somebody that said he wanted to shoot his opponent in the head, and he wanted his wife and children to be watching so they could be terrified. Kevin, what kind of a person would even joke about that?
That's, well, evil. I'm just going to say it.
Oh, yeah.
How in the world could someone like that be in a public office at
Absolutely.
this point? They need to run out on a rail.
I so agree. Now, as you can see, when Kevin puts this graph up, Jay Jones is actually the clear favorite early on. Now, in May, he was favored by 99%, but then lots of stuff happened. Charlie Kirk died. And I tell you what, a big shift happened when that occurred. But then, of course, you had these reports of these texts. In the last month, in October, it flipped, absolutely inverted. The prediction market decided that actually Miyares at first had a near 20-point edge, and then ultimately it went to 30 points. I mean, he was shooting way up there. And then, on election day, Kevin, it switched again, and all of a sudden, Jay Jones was winning. Now, how did this happen, Kevin? How did they get this wrong?
Well, it's the same old song. The only thing I haven't heard like we heard before was we don't have any standing. Hopefully we don't start hearing that in the middle of this. Yeah.
Well, that means you'd have to take all this to the court, and I don't know that they're going to. No. I think they're just going to take their licks, brush themselves off, and go on. It looks like.
Exposure.
Yeah.
We got to have exposure.
Right.
Yes.
Well, here's what Tim Pool said. He said, well, take a look at this from the decision desk. Jay Jones won by just shy of 200,000 votes. In the beginning of the day, Miyares was ahead, and his lead was growing. In fact, at one point, it was 51.4 to 48.6. So he was quite a bit ahead. And then all of a sudden, at night, Kevin, just before 8 o'clock, it inverted, it flipped.
This is where the spirograph kicks in.
That's right. Then Miyares starts climbing again briefly, and then it jumps back, and Jones takes the lead and closes out more than 5 points ahead of Miyares for just shy of 200,000 votes. Now, there are a lot of people that are looking at this and saying, hey, it looks an awful lot like Trump and Biden. I'm telling you, looking at those graphs gives me PTSD. And watching this always happens at night. Well, yeah, Tim Pool says. The reason the flip happened was almost certainly mail-in votes, mail-in ballots. And they hold back and they dump them at the last minute.
Yep.
And they know just how many they need at that point. Now, what about the other Virginia race between Winsome Earl Sears and Abigail Spanberger? All right, well, here's a viral tweet that got 5,000 retweets. This was a citizen who was watching it. His handle on Twitter, or on X, of course, is Real Roberts. He said on election night, Virginia Democratic candidate Spanberger had around 125,000 early votes. By the following morning, again overnight, the number had surged to more than 300,000. In other words, they pulled a Biden. In over 175,000 mail-in ballots appeared in the dead of night for Spanberger. That's why they oppose voter ID laws and fight tooth and nail to keep it that way. But that was from this gentleman, this citizen watcher on X.
Nothing to see. Nothing to see.
Nothing to see. Will anybody do anything about it? Who knows? I guess we'll see. I haven't heard a whole lot. Now, and I want to say this, Kevin. There are some lessons here to be learned.
There are.
I do believe that people, that's right, the people who came out and made it too big to rig, basically, because I think they tried to cheat in 2024. I think God intervened.
Yep.
But I also think that there were people who came out and voted because they were hopeful that something could help them, that they could have help in their personal lives with the things that they saw happening, the horrible Biden economy. The sad thing is it's not turning around quickly, and this is something we all knew, that it's going to take a while for this to turn around. And I really think that we probably have a lot of them that probably just shrugged their shoulders and stayed home. So there may have been some that switched, there probably were, but I think there were a lot of them who just didn't vote because they're discouraged. A lot of the young ones, like I said.
This is not a time to be discouraged. This is a time to be encouraged. When you see the enemy pulling...
stuff like this.
Oh yeah, this is pretty good evidence. We're over the mark. There's a threat. They're worried.
If everybody would have shown up, I don't know that they could have done this. But I do think that there was definitely cheating. Again, we need to learn from it too. So, townhall.com says, what happened in New Jersey? Now, this writer said, I knew 250,000 residents fled the state. They had already fled the state. New Jersey is diminishing in population.
Yep.
Although there has been some growth too, but not as many of the votes as, and I'll read that to you here in just a second, had fled the state since Republican Jack Ciattarelli's almost upset win against incumbent Democrat Phil Murphy in the last gubernatorial election. Momentum was swinging his way, Ciattarelli. He was clinching some wild endorsements from Democrats, local Democrats and labor unions. A lot of people were coming out and were endorsing him. They didn't want Phil Murphy, and they didn't want this other gal, this Mickey Sherrill. But the crazy thing is he got blown out in the election 56-43 against Mikey Sherrill. The race seemed tighter than that, townhall.com says. It's the only one where the GOP supposedly had a shot. So what gives? Now, they went on to say that Sherrill was only marginally improving with Hispanic voters, which is true. She improved a little, but she wasn't. He was actually doing better. And election night happened, and the results stunned nearly everyone. Exit polls, turnout, demographic margins, and the final numbers made little sense compared to virtually every public survey. They were doing a lot of surveys in the month or two that followed. And townhall.com says it wasn't just us. 99% of pollsters missed it at similar scale. Or did they?
99%. That seems, well,
yeah,
a little excessive.
They said something unusual happened in New Jersey, and we're still unpacking what it was.
Maybe it was new math with a spirograph.
Yeah, maybe so. And of course, let's see, Chitterelli. It's got the graphs here, and like I said, Kevin putting these up. Hopefully, you can put the one between Chitterelli and Murphy.
Do you want me to put a frame around it since it's such a work of art?
Gosh, I tell you. Here's the crazy thing, folks, is all these extra people showed up. There were over nearly 500,000 new voters. Actually, I added it up. I think it was more than that. It was closer to 600,000 new voters that just appeared from nowhere. And Chitterelli almost won in the battle against Murphy in 2021. And then in 2025, he actually got more votes than Murphy did, the winner from 2021. And this is after 125,000 people had left. Mm-hmm. And get this, the winner, the Democrat, got 1,809,292 votes. Right Angle News Network says, breaking, conservatives are now pointing to inconsistencies in the New Jersey gubernatorial race after nearly 500,000 new voters appeared from 2021 to 2025, more than double the state's population growth over 4 years, Kevin, with almost all of them going to Democrats.
I wonder if they were doing the tallies with an auto pen.
Maybe so. Townhall.com asked, how did 500,000 plus Dems magically appear, whereas they were dormant like cicadas in the 2013, 2017, and 2021 election? It's a good point.
Good illustration.
That's right. Red Eagle Politics says, strangest swing map ever. Mike Crispy was another watcher on X who was watching all the goings-on. He says, no voter ID in New Jersey, no enforcement of ballot harvesting, mail-ins in the inner cities. The mayor of New York's brother was paid 7 figures for political field operations. That's what I was telling you.
Political field operations. That's right. Quite an interesting title to have.
We have that going on in Missouri, too, these referendums with the signatures. Yes, we do. We have people getting paid by George Soros. Now,
we're on it. We're seeing it. It's exposed. We got to do something about it.
There's been some stuff that has been legislated against it, and hopefully that's going to stop some of it.
Yep.
Here's how he ended up. If Republicans want to win statewide going forward, they must tackle election integrity first.
Necessary.
Which is absolutely true. And then, of course, it goes on, townhall.com. I'm not going to read all this, but basically they were just very frustrated, very angry, didn't even know what to think about all of it. And like I said, they had done all of these polls, and everything just completely disintegrated on election night. Now, here's something else unusual in New Jersey. Again, the implication being cheating in the voting trend map. If you've ever seen these, this is where they will have the little blue arrows or the red arrows. And basically, it shows the voting trend in the different counties, in the different sections of the state, whether they're voting more toward Republican or voting more toward Democrat. I don't think Kevin's going to put this one up, but basically here's kind of the story. Now, you'll notice when you look at those that there's relatively little swinging to the left. Not really. But Newark and Trenton, which are major urban hubs, have dramatic leftward swings.
I guess the auto pen only swings to the left on a spirograph. In
the big city counties, yes. And of course, the implication is that in these urban centers, they can amass fake or ballot harvested votes and guarantee their victory. I mean, that's what you see whenever you look at this. That's what it looks like. The most concerning part of this map is the Hispanic trends. And it makes it even weirder once you look at the data. Some Hispanic precincts moved 15 points to the right, and some moved 50 points to the left. And like I told you about the other strange anomaly, how much you want to bet, it's in those big urban centers.
Yep.
Crazy. Now, here was the conclusion that, again, Tim Pool Neat young man. He's definitely someone who speaks very plainly and is a truth seeker. He had a couple of great conclusions and a great story that I was going to share with you. He said, I'm just saying, I don't know how we've seen these elections and these weird things happen that defy logic. I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm just saying, wow, so many anomalies, back to back to back. That's well put. He said, yeah, I'm so over all of this. I'm sorry, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever to have insecure elections. And he's right. Not in America. This is not a banana republic.
No, paper ballots aren't that hard.
They're really not.
And showing up and filling it out.
Yep. And in Missouri, that's one of the things that the Freedom Caucus in the House is looking at, is getting rid of the tabulators and paper ballots. And boy, I hope and pray, Missouri residents that are watching us, pray for that.
Yep.
He says, how are we here? It's an honest question, right? We all know it mathematically. Logically, you just know it. I love this story. He said, it seems like half the country is lying to us, making up fake reasons as to why they should be allowed to have insecure elections. And then we just keep playing. I liken it to you sitting down to play a game of Monopoly with some friends. And one friend says, I'll be the banker. And you respond with, sure thing. And then you watch that friend pulling hundreds out of the bank and using them. And you're going, hey, man, you're cheating. And they go, do you want to stop playing? And then the other side goes, no. And time again, the Republicans just keep on playing. There has to be an end to that, folks. I'm telling you.
There has to be exposure and there has to be action.
So here's the good news. And there are a couple of things. And Kevin's got something he's going to share this evening, too. Here's the good news. The good news is that on November 5th, and Trump, you know that in the very beginning, as I said last week, he put out several executive orders. And one big one was voter integrity with many things in it. And he has blasted Republican and Democrat several times on X. Well, after the election, or on the day of the election, whenever things started to swing crazy, Trump knows what's going on. He knows it. Here's what he said. He said, this was on Truth Social. He said, Republicans, terminate the filibuster. Get back to passing legislation and voter reform. Pass voter reform, voter ID, no mail-in ballots. Save our Supreme Court from packing.
Yes.
No two-state addition, because they're wanting to add 2 more states to overwhelm us with liberal votes, etc. And then in all capitals, he says, terminate the filibuster. Now, like we told you last week, I know some people are like, oh no, the filibuster, we can't terminate it. Let me tell you, we have a Mugwump at large that's going to come in, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and I think she's listening to this. She's going to give us a history of the filibuster and the Senate. There have been a lot of changes over the years due to the 17th Amendment. Let me tell you, the filibuster, the way that the Senate does things now, are not nearly what they used to be. There are going to have to be some changes. The fact that I don't know that we'll get anything done over the next year. Midterms come, we better be in a good shape so that we can keep our House and keep our Senate, because these Democrats are radical, Kevin. They're radical, and they're going to jump in with both feet, and they're going to blow up the filibuster.
Yep.
They need to get some of this voter integrity, just what Trump said, and he knows it. He absolutely knows it, and I know that he intends to keep pushing it. Some of the things that he is starting now to put out, not sure exactly what I think about the 50-year mortgage. It's a way to get young people into the housing market. You know, that's the truth. It's a way that they can afford it. Man, I hate all the interest payments they'd have to make, but it would get their feet in anyway. Then, of course, the healthcare savings account. Man, wouldn't that be great? So there are some things that he's trying to do now. again, I think that's something that we need to learn from this election is we need to start looking at how we can help the Americans deal with what's been left by Joe Biden and his
We
administration.
need to get the monopoly banker out of the game.
Wow, for sure. I wanted to read one more thing. Again, be optimistic, folks, because we need this exposure. And then I'm going to turn it over to Kevin and let him tell you a really cool Bible story. This was from the Daily Signal, and I loved it. It says, politics is downstream from culture, and the culture is coming clean. Folks, look at what's going on in our youth, revivals across the nation. It was actually on Fox News the other night. They're starting to talk about all the revivals in the colleges.
Yes.
A group called Unite Us that started with one woman and her daughter that she knew was having trouble in college. She started this group, and it has ballooned from there and spread through the colleges. It talks about TMZ reporting, CBS News. Did you know they're trying to poach some of the news reporters from Fox News? They're trying to put conservatives in because they see, they're licking their fingers, sticking it up to the wind, and they see which way the culture's going.
Yep.
The box office failure of Trump hater Bruce Springsteen's movie Deliver Me From Nowhere and Hollywood in general as a whole, having its worst October in 27 years. The birth of Elon Musk's Grokpedia, a powerful new competitor to Wikipedia, but without the woke left-wing bias. And the death of Teen Vogue magazine. Kevin, that was around when I was a kid. It was at the cutting edge of indoctrinating the young and vulnerable into this ideology, this trans ideology, and into the cult of abortion. Guess what? It's out of business.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Traditional concepts of womanhood are rapidly becoming in vogue again once more. Not only the young men, folks, the young women. Keep your chin up. Politics, you know what? It's definitely a downstream thing. And the culture's changing. Politics will change with it. It might just take some time. Kevin, what do you have?
Well, I don't have a story. You said I had a Bible story, but, well, that's not really what I have. I was reading the Bible, and
I gotcha.
I got to notice some similarities between what's going on now and part of what happened in the Old Testament. I was reading Nehemiah. Kind of a depressing time. Israel, the Israelites had been packed off into Babylon. They'd lost their land. They lost their home. They got carried away, and they were put into bondage. And wow, what a rough place to be. But anyway, I was reading through that, and there is a revival going on now. Well, there's kind of a revival that started back then, and it started with first thing Nehemiah started noticing, and he started feeling sad and bad, getting a little depressed about what happened to his homeland. So he started praying, and he started praying to God that God would use him. He started praying for his nation, and wow. As he began to pray, he began to have doors open to him, and there's a lot of details along the way, but Cyrus, kind of neat to know that one of those kings that was holding them in bondage started being an ally. And Nehemiah was given the opportunity to go back home, and when he went back home to his homeland, they had an opportunity to go ahead and build. Matter of fact, Cyrus saw to it he had the money to rebuild. Well, we're kind of in a similar time. We've got money being available to us. Obviously, most of us are kind of frustrated and a little bit financially strapped right now, but we don't need to let that be discouraging because God does bless his people.
Yeah.
And the thing that really made the turnaround that struck me and where we're at now is Ezra. One of the things I began to realize is the young people, the people that had been in exile, been raised in that other nation, they didn't know who they were. And we've got a generation now that seems like they're looking for who they are. And as they begin to hear God's word, and when you start speaking to them, you begin to know. You mentioned the young man that you was talking about tonight. seemed like he's looking for the truth, looking for things that are good.
Yes.
And it's our responsibility in this world to be those people that speak that.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be sharing the gospel, sharing the good news, and making disciples. And we've kind of dropped the ball. But my favorite part was where I mentioned, I never noticed this before, but Ezra stood up behind a wooden podium. Sounds a lot like a pulpit. But when he got up there, him and Nehemiah, they began to share with the people about God's law. And when they began to read God's law, the people, they stood up and they listened. And this was a sermon that went on from early in the morning till the afternoon, and everybody listened. There's no note of anybody getting bored or anything. Matter of fact, they wept when they began to hear the law. Repentance, that weeping is when we begin to realize how sad a circumstance we're in because we're the cause. That's when repentance comes. But anyway, we've got a lot of young people there. They know that they've been going the wrong way, and they're in these universities. These people that are going to these universities and presenting the gospel. I'm kind of seeing a podium there, and I've been kind of wondering, where's our pastors? We've got our pulpits in our churches. We've got our pulpits in our communities. And another thing about this pulpit that Ezra was standing behind, or Ezra, it was a wooden pulpit in the town square. I'm thinking we need to be out in the town square. Matter of fact, didn't we have a young man just killed?
Yes.
For speaking in the town square? What a pulpit he had, what a platform he took. He spoke the word of God, and our nation began to shift. Those young people began to hear the truth. Those young people began to step up. And when they killed Charlie Kirk, they made 1 million of him. And I'm so excited about that because we're in a time of awakening and revival, and we need to not be discouraged by all this election stuff. We got to be involved. We got to be speaking about these things, and we've got to do something about it. And more than that, we've got to be helping these young people to know how to navigate that. We've got to give them the truth. We've got to give them the word, and we've got to give them the support. This is their time. They're here for such a time as this, and so are we. We're supposed to be the helpers. We're supposed to be behind them, and we're supposed to be examples. And I'm seeing a lot more people realizing that. And just long story short, the outcome of this, they didn't necessarily win things right away. It just went on and on and on. But you know what? Matter of fact, when they were building the walls, they had to stand out there. They had to lay bricks with one hand and have a sword in the other.
That's right.
You know what? We're not in new territory here. And what we see, we've got God's history, and we know that He honors His people when they honor Him. So I'm thinking we just lift Christ up, and I think we're going to see a lot of changes. I think we're going to see some exciting things. And is this a time to be discouraged? No. This is a time to step up, speak up, get out in the town square, and I think we need to have a few more preachers out there in the pulpit in the town square proclaiming the good news, reading the law, reading the word, and talking about Christ.
Well, and engaging. And people say, well, I don't know what I can do. Honestly, learning, just listening to citizen podcasters, reading, and passing on the information is huge.
Yes.
Bigger than you think, folks, because people feel alone. I remember in 2020, I felt alone, but I started watching things and paying attention to what was going on. It helps so much. It builds a network. And pass on that information. That's why I always tell you, like, subscribe, and share so that people will know you're not alone. We're not alone at all. What you think happened probably happened. And here's how you combat it. Always vote. Make sure you, like Kevin said, speak up and engage. Yeah. Yep. And find out what's going on in your states also. Missouri, I looked this afternoon, we're going to give you another Missouri update here before too long and tell you about that, what's going on. Anyway, folks, revival is here. Remember, the exposure is shocking. It's kind of like a splash of cold water in the face sometimes. You don't want to get splashed, but you know what? It's the wake up that it brings that is important. Very important. Don't fear, engage, pray, and become part of the movement. And we're going to end on that tonight, Kevin. And we hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And again, remember to like, share, and subscribe to spread the good news and keep the wake up going. And join us again next week as we bring you more news, more conversation, and always more encouragement to keep you informed, inspired, and always independent. God bless.